Hey everybody. Some of y'all know me and some of y'all don't. And that's okay. I don't have any hard feelings about that. I'm slowly getting over the fact that I'm not as famous as my once 8-year-old self thought I would be. Anyways, today I am making my first one-on-one conversational video with all of my people who are potentially watching this. And it is going to be about PCOS. And that would be where I would put in the letters if I was technologically savvy, but I'm not, so. Anyways, PCOS, for those of you who don't know, is polycystic ovarian syndrome. And what that basically means is that people who have ovaries are going to have what they would call cysts all over them. But in reality, those cysts, which kind of look like pearls around the ovaries, are really follicles. And typically, I think normally, ovaries who don't have polycystic ovarian syndrome will have like 25 follicles per ovary, but people with PCOS will have over that amount. So for example, myself, I have 75 follicles. I think I have one ovary that has like 40 something and the other one has like 32. So whatever that is, math, okay? Anywho. So that is like a case identifier for PCOS. But I noticed that I have a lot of followers on my Instagram who have PCOS but have no clue what to do about it. They don't know where to get good advice from, where to have good conversations about it from, and that is really concerning as somebody who has struggled most of my life knowing that I have PCOS. So I'll start with a little bit of my background, and then I'm going to move us into what you can do on your own to advocate for yourself and to hopefully get some clarity about PCOS. My journey begins when I was 17 years old. I got diagnosed with PCOS by an OBGYN who my mom kind of like took me to go see her on a whim because my periods were really irregular. I was having them from anywhere between once every 2 months to once every 4 months, and my cramps were ridiculous. I wanted to rip out my innards and just splay them across the table with how mad I was at my cramps. So I realized that something was obviously wrong. So we went, and basically what my OBGYN said was, you're fat and you need to lose weight, and that will help your PCOS. And I want to pause the conversation right there, because what happens to most people who experience PCOS is that they tend to either gain weight, or there's probably people who are fat who just have PCOS. The problem exists when the medical industry decides that people who have PCOS are people who are fat. And that is not true. Like, there's the ratio of fat people who have PCOS is the same ratio of like fat people that just exist outside of PCOS, if that makes sense. So basically there's no correlation between being fat and having PCOS. It's just that some people who have PCOS are fat. So prescribing weight loss to somebody as a cure for PCOS is not only ineffective, it's really malpractice on your physician's end. So just because you have PCOS does not mean that losing weight will then affect it or make it better. So that's one myth I want to just kind of throw out right now from out the gate. If you have PCOS and you are fat, losing weight is not going to cure you of your PCOS. And if you are not fat and somebody is telling you that you have to stay at that weight to maintain your PCOS, that doesn't also make sense either. So basically what I want you to think about is, if we are not telling our thin people who have PCOS that they need to lose weight, then why are we telling our fat people who have PCOS to lose weight? Weight loss is not an accurate prescription. That is not a good way to tell somebody to do something about what's going on with them. First and foremost, get that out of the way. I also want to talk about what it means to advocate for yourself. So if you have PCOS and your doctor is telling you that the thing that you need to do is lose weight, advocate for yourself by also asking questions or bringing in somebody who's a friend of yours or somebody that you trust who maybe has thin privilege to advocate for you and say, hey, what else can so-and-so do? I want us to focus away from weight and think more about what kind of medicines they can take or what kind of things that they can do to kind of help the whole thing. So that's really what I want to start with, is that weight is not going to be your number one indicator of why you have PCOS or how to get rid of it. What I know is that progesterone will help in terms of kind of stabilizing your PCOS. So typically people who have PCOS get prescribed birth control that has estrogen and progesterone or just progesterone only. For me, I got blood clots from taking the NuvaRing, and so because I got blood clots that were correlated to taking a birth control, I can never have a third party or a chemically constructed estrogen, so I can only take progesterone. So I'm actually going to be going in about 2 weeks to get the Mirena IUD, which is progesterone only. That IUD should help with bleeding irregularly, heavy bleeding, and cramping. So it kind of helps all of those things. The goal with PCOS, especially if you're like thinking about fertility or just like bettering your life in general, is to make sure that you have more frequent periods or more frequent menstruation. So getting progesterone in your system can help you with that situation. The other thing you want to think about is many people will prescribe you with diets, or they'll tell you that you need to eliminate a certain thing to eat or whatever. And I know that I'm coming from an intuitive eating perspective and a health at every size perspective, which are two systems and fundamentals that kind of help dietitians and nutritionists and health specialists understand what it means to help patients throughout this process. Intuitive eating means that you are going to be intuitive about how you are eating and the things that you are eating, not meaning that you are prescribing food as either good or bad or healthy or unhealthy, because those are binaries that don't work with food. But what that means is that you're going to eat things that make you feel good and also provide you with stability throughout your day. So if you're dealing with PCOS, you want to make sure that you're eating consistently. You want to make sure that you're never putting your body in a starvation mode, which means that you are eating every 4 hours or even more than that. You want to make sure that your body is constantly dealing with delicious food that it's getting nutrition from. Other things that happen with people who have PCOS is hair growth, specifically facial hair growth, cystic acne, depression, body hair, accelerated body hair because of our accelerated or our higher levels of testosterone. We also deal with a lot of things that happen with irregular bleeding, cramping, and insulin resistance can also be another thing. So my first step for anybody who has PCOS is go to your doctor and ask for some blood tests that can help you positively identify PCOS, which will be like a glucose testing, your insulin resistance, looking at your cholesterol levels, and looking at your testosterone. All of those things are correlated to PCOS. Actually, I think cholesterol, we could throw that one out the window. But for sure, testosterone, and insulin and glucose. Those three things are going to help you identify what's kind of happening within your PCOS system. And after you get a positive identification for PCOS, it's going to be very individualized. I cannot tell you how to take care of yourself for each PCOS case because each case is vastly different. What I can tell you is that you've got to advocate for yourself. You've got to tell your doctors what you need. You've got to ask for tests, do research. What I would say is listen to, oh my God, I'm blanking on her name, but I will put it in the show notes. But I know that there is a nutritionist / dietitian, Christy Harrison, who has a podcast called Food Psych, and she interviewed this person who does PCOS kind of like dietitian and nutritionist perspective stuff, and I know I'm messing up all of this, but I will link it in the bio below. And so you can kind of look at her work because she specifically talks about how PCOS cannot be solved through restriction and cannot be solved through weight loss. It is way deeper than that. So I just want you to erase the idea that weight loss and restricting your food is going to solve your PCOS, because it will not. Everybody in the choir say amen. For real though, I grew up Catholic. We're just gonna not talk about that piece of my life. But really though, I want you to think about caring for yourself, making sure that you are knowledgeable in your own kind of, diagnosis of PCOS, and then you have people to reach out to and talk to. I want to make sure that you're eating good foods that feel delicious to you. And when I say good, I mean good for you, like good for your mind, good for your spirit, good for everything about you, and are delicious, right? Not like, ew, this food's bad and this food's good. No, I want you to eat foods that make you feel fine as fuck and yummy and all that stuff. And I also want you to know what's happening with your body, because PCOS can be so stressful and so scary. And I don't want you to feel alone. So I'm here. You can talk to me in the comments. You can ask questions in the comments. You can also ask me where I went, and I will tell you right now that I went to UCSF PCOS clinic, which happens 2 Thursdays every month. And if you have Medi-Cal, so if you're here in California, you can get that for free. And if you have other insurance, I know that they take almost every single insurance that they have, including non-insured patients. So maybe check them out, UCSF, and maybe you talk to your therapist about it, because the mental health aspect of PCOS is so huge. People who have PCOS often struggle with depression, negative self-talk, negative body image, and all of this is based on our serotonin levels. And so we've really got to check in with ourselves and make sure that we are putting ourselves first. You got to make sure that your well is overfilling before you can then service other people. So put yourself first, especially when it comes to PCOS. I hope that this was somewhat helpful, but I do want you to ask any questions that you have below, and I will put in my description of this video the podcast that I'm referring to and the Instagram that this dietitian nutritionist is working from PCOS. Because I also know she offers an online class, which might be beneficial for all of us. And if you don't have PCOS, but you have a friend who does, listen to them. Be there for them. Offer a helping piece of you to them. And make sure that you can empathize. When they're having horrible cramps, get them that CBD oil and that chocolate cake that they want. And some, I don't know, something for pain, because for me, I know that Tylenol 800s don't even help. So get them something and make sure that you're taking care of each other. And also make sure that if your fat friend or your fat marginalized friend, whatever it is going to the doctor for PCOS, that you see if you can use your privilege to help them navigate that already really faulty system. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next time with the next video, which is about questions that I received on Instagram. Okay. Bye.